Good morning, everybody. It is 8:15. It is May 12th. Hope everybody had a good day yesterday. Um, it's a tale of a lot of different markets, right? Nasdaq super strong. S&P, Dow, Russell weaker. Financials, right? A lot of stuff going on. PPI came out yesterday. Just a mixed bag in the S&P. Nasdaq's just trying to move higher, but a lot of those stocks have been hitting these tops that just can't seem to, like the big ones like Apple can't seem to break 175. Microsoft's kind of hanging around the 310 level. Google's made a move. Amazon has made a move of late. So those are stocks I'm looking at, but those stocks move the market, right? Nvidia can't get over 290. So that's the key, I think. And they're very overextended. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but something's got to give here. Either Nasdaq is going to keep breaking further, and if financials get strong in the ES and for the Dow and for the Russell, then I could see the move continuing. However, if that stays weak, I don't know. And if tech gets a little selling, tech could bring down this market, and the big stocks are holding up the market right now. So that's what I'm seeing right now. We're in range. So I'll get into that a little bit later. But first off, let's get the introduction going. My name is Steven Gonzalez. Welcome to my channel. I use volume and market profile along with gamma exposure. Okay, thanks, Ian. Gamma exposure levels, supply and demand, obviously fundamental news to make up with trades, right? So yesterday, perfect pullback in the Nasdaq to get long. That came to fruition. The week low in the ES worked out. So I'll get into those a little bit later. We'll cover that. Of course, show me some love. Subscribe if you haven't already. Set an alert. That would be great. Always giving me a big thumbs up. Always gives me a help. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's Gonzo719. And of course on Instagram at Gonzo719Jersey. All right. I don't really look at that fib, 0.78 fib. But if that works for you, I really only stop at 61.8. Okay. Yeah, Snow's been on a little bit of a tear lately. And that stock just does whatever it wants. It's kind of a lone wolf. Same with Baba. Sometimes they're just lone wolves. They go rogue. So anyway, let's get into the watch list. All right, let's look at what we have going here. So crude is up 0.47%, Russell's up 0.35. Now the regional banks are getting some love today. PACW is up, not crazy, but up 0.85. KRE, the regional bank ETF, is up 0.64. So financials is getting a little bit of love, little bit, okay, which would be helping the Russell, the Dow. So ES is up 0.27. The dollar, now you can see how this flipped. It's very interesting. The dollar is up slightly. It's over 102. Okay, that's going to turn metals down, right? So just interesting. Well, the Nasdaq just got a little pop here. But just notice the Nasdaq is the weaker one out of the indexes today. Okay, it just hit another key resistance level in the overnight. So now 30-year bonds being sold. So when we get the 10-year yield, that should be up. Gold is just above 2K, with the dollar strength, the VIX is down 1.12% at 16.74. Ether down 1.1%. Silver is getting hammered today, 1.63%. Bitcoin down 1.84%. News on Bitcoin, it's at a 2-month low, and they're saying that's due to regulatory pressure and illiquidity. So that's interesting. Okay, moving on. All right, Tesla up 2.1%. Full transparency here with me yesterday, I had a little bit of a bonehead day. I started out the day pretty good with a meta long. Pretty much was going to be done for the day, and I'm sure someone can relate to this. And I saw that a gamma level 170, Tesla was approaching it, and it looked like the Nasdaq was going to break out. So I looked at it, and one of my rules is if I'm up in the morning, I really don't like to trade in the afternoon. I usually just avoid it. And of course, the seductress of the market, I went long a couple times. I didn't take full losses, but it didn't work out. And then what happens? Tesla breaks out. Just a little setback there. Had a green day, turned it into a slightly red day, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's not a good feeling to have either. But anyway, on Tesla, up 2.05%. Now, a couple things here. China, Shanghai is looking to do the autonomous driving with Tesla. They're looking to move forward with that. And second, it looks like Elon Musk is going to find a CEO for Twitter. So that's going to look positive for the stock, where people think he was getting pulled away from Tesla, concentrating on Tesla, and moving. Now he can concentrate more on Tesla and not concentrate on Twitter. So that's going to be positive for Tesla. Now Tesla, I'm still eyeing up today. I'm still eyeing that up. Okay. So I think I'm looking for a pullback to like 174.43. If I get that pullback, I'm going to look long. Meta is up 0.62, not a big one, but it's talking about AI. And every time somebody talks about AI, they're looking about using AI in their ads. Okay. Google's been a bit of a monster of late. We'll get over some other news a little later. Let's see. The only laggard is Baba, which is a wild one. It always goes up and down. But story about Baba yesterday. This was really heartbreaking. I told you guys yesterday in pre-market I was looking at Baba long, right? Hold 85. Well, it did. And when I went into the trade, my order was at 85. As soon as I put my order on, it literally missed it by a penny. And the stock hit all my targets within, like, I'm not even kidding, like 30 seconds. And I was like, unbelievable. I was just like, unbelievable. You know, you stalk something for a while, you set it up. My order was there, and I missed it by a penny. And then it hits all of my targets, would have been like a 250% winner. And I'm just sitting there like, you got to be kidding me. You know, I made it good with a meta long, and then of course I did the bonehead Tesla plays, right? It's just amazing how some days you can just lose your focus. That's the hard thing about trading. So Baba's down 1.38%, but I'm still looking for a possible pullback to 86. Okay, that stock's been beaten down, and so let's see if it can get some continuation. Okay, moving on. Okay, we got Qualcomm. We got JP Morgan. There's the financials part, right? All right. Is there laggards? Yes. UPS is down 0.72 and Roblox is down 0.8. Not huge, but decent. All right, moving on. Sectors. Let's just look at the strength. Well, who's the leader today? Financials, right? And you need that for the rest of the indexes to move higher and the Nasdaq not just be the lone wolf, right? And then you got XLY, discretionary, that's Tesla. All right, then you got industrials. Now there is really no laggard sector today. Okay, even though the market's pulled back a little bit from the overnight. Okay. And right now, the out of the ETFs, well, the Russell's the leader. So you saw that in the futures. So let's move forward to some market news, which some of it I talked about already. All right. All right. So really quickly, I'll just brush over what I was talking about. Elon Musk says he's found a new Twitter CEO. That's what's making Tesla move. What else here? There's a couple things to note here that I was talking about already. Okay, this is something interesting. Apple is looking to do its first online store in Vietnam. So they just went into India, now they're going to go into Vietnam. Now, here's what I was talking about earlier. So here's a little bit of a positive news for Meta and a negative news for Netflix. So Meta's talking about AI, bringing it into their ad tools. But Netflix, I mean, they're not getting hurt by this right now. Okay, they just made a big move in the stock, but they're talking about India seeking to tax the streaming giant's income. So that would be negative for if that happens for Netflix. That's really all I want to talk about there. Okay. Now, one thing I wanted to show you guys was here what Bank of America is showing. I'm going to highlight it here. So right here, it's showing 6.3 billion inflows to bond funds in week to May 10th. Largest in 6 weeks into bonds. But check this out. Tech funds see 3 billion inflow, largest since December 2021. Financials see 2.1 billion outflow, largest since May 2022. Gold fund sees 1.3 billion inflow, largest since April of 2022. Bank of America Bull and Bear indicator rises to 3.4 at neutral. So that is like something very, very interesting. Okay, very, very interesting that you have. It's kind of like contradictory, really, right? Money going into gold, which usually is defensive, an inflation hedge, right? And then usually gold typically will go up. You would see that, technology usually come down. And usually you're not going to see people going into bonds and going into tech. This is where this market has changed from that 60-40 stocks to bond ratio. Like, people are going into bonds looking to probably a recession, but tech is getting money poured into it. And gold is getting money poured into it. Gold most likely because I think people see the dollar going to get weak, right? And inflation to rise. So, very interesting, right? Couple other things. Disney got a downgrade. I already talked about the Bitcoin 2-month low. Home Depot got a price cut. And then we talked about the Netflix. Now, today, Fed Bowman spoke at like 3 a.m. in the morning. He said a lot of the same stuff we keep hearing, right? Today, okay, we have Michigan consumer sentiment. Let's see if I can go to this here. So at 10 a.m., you got 5 things dropping. Michigan consumer sentiment, Michigan inflation, consumer expectations, Michigan current conditions, but the real one is consumer sentiment, right? So at 10 a.m., expect volatility. I would caution about being in any kind of day trade at 10 a.m. because it's going to get, if you're close to your stop, it's probably going to get whipped out. So I set an alarm for myself that repeats that just don't take trades. All right, so I'm probably going to look to trades after 10 a.m. Unless something just is like smacking me in the face at like 9:35, then I'll probably take it if it's a quick one and I still have 25 minutes on my case. But if you're a little bit of a longer term trader, then I would stay away until after 10. Okay. So then we have Fed talking later on. That's not going to affect the market. All right. Let's move on to the dailies. Give me one sec here, guys. Let's go to the daily charts. All right. So you see the SPY is just building out. You look at this profile over the last year. Double distribution. It's getting ready to change the most traded price of the past year up. It's getting ready to move it up. Okay. In the futures, that's already happened. But the SPY is about to do the same thing. We're just hanging out here. Okay. Let's look at what we had happen yesterday. Now notice this FOMC anchored VWAP here. Let's change that color again just so we can differentiate it from the other one. Okay, so it's just very interesting. I love looking at these anchored VWAPs because they're absolute. There's nothing you can say that's about, it's not a moving average. It's based on, the volume weighted average price. So whoever bought the FOMC, you're pretty much still in profit. The average buyer. Okay. Support here, support here, support there. So very interesting. Okay. And look at all these wicks. So every time we go down, we get bought up, right? Look at that big wick. Look at the wick from yesterday. So there's buyers just present in here. Every time we go down, we get bought up. That's just been what's been happening lately. Okay. But we're stuck, kind of. And right now we're at 413. So we're gapping higher currently. We're at 413.46. But right here. So we're gapping higher. So that's interesting, right? And our level really is that 414 right here, our resistance level. If you look at the weeklies, this is our range. Look at that. Yesterday, not yesterday, but this week still pulled off that 10-week EMA, right? There's the volume profile of the last month. Look at that. Look at the volume. Look at the volume at 412. That is just a crazy amount of volume. All right, moving on. Let's go to those Qs. So Q's obviously a different story, right? Most trader prices down here for the year. This is in the ETFs though, right? So this is a year ago. So this is a year ago. So I apologize before I said the SPY is already in that now. No, this is a year, a rolling year. The current year is different. Okay, so the Qs just from here has just been going higher, right? And we broke out 323, and look where we pulled back yesterday, right to that level. So let's zoom in here, right? Right to this resistance level. I mean, in the futures it was more perfect. Okay, so just moving along. FOMC here, anchor VWAPs, just supporting this market here. Okay, over all the moving averages, 8 EMA daily. Now they're very important too. When you see these fanned out, the moving averages, they're all sequentially. You got the 8, the 20, the 50. They're all pointing up. That's pretty bullish. Okay, but you don't have to take a rocket. You can just look at the chart and see that it's bullish, right? So look at the weeklies. Now look at that level, right? Finally broke out. Finally broke out this week. So what do we have ahead of us? 330. This resistance right here. So if we continue to go, I expect to go to 330. Look at the profile, right? Totally different. The SPY in the range is right in the middle here. Look at the NASDAQ. It's just all the way at the top of the range. Okay? Moving on to the Dow. You can see the Dow is so different, and the SPY is so different than the NASDAQ. Dow was below the most traded price of the rolling year. Okay? Let's zoom in here. And it's just a lot weaker, right? But today, it's gapping up. So 334.51, that's where we're at right now. So we're right here. Right up to the FOMC anchored VWAP. Now check this out. We're below the 20 simple moving average, the 80 MA daily. Okay. And this is the anchor VWAP from the October lows. So you can see how far down the Dow has moved. And it literally went right off the 50-day moving average yesterday. It literally touched it and got bought right up. Okay, let's look at the weeklies. You can see each, week. Well, this last 2 weeks, lower highs. Didn't make a lower low, but lower highs, right? And look at that 10-week. It'd be interesting. Right now we're gapping up, so where is this 10-week EMA at? Let's see here. It is at 334.52. So it's right at that right now. Interesting, right? The profile, you're at the bottom third of the last month's profile, of this month's the last month. This is a rolling month profile. So we're at the bottom portion of that now. Okay. Now, let's look at the Russell, the weakest and the strongest on the open today. Strongest futures right now. Okay, so at the bottom of the range of the rolling here. So very weak, right? Once we made that move down, we just been holding. Just been holding. Very weak. Okay? Still have this. Now you have a new resistance kind of here. Let me actually put that into my charts. I would say it's right there. 176. That's something I'm going to look at. Okay? I'm going to put that in my alerts. Alright, so that's there now. Okay, so I kind of broke these lows yesterday, but where are we at now, right? 173.79. We're about right there. We're at the highs. We're at the highs of yesterday. Okay, so moving average wise, below the 50, below the 100 to 200. I mean, just below every moving average. Couldn't get any more difference. That's the regional bank weakness. Okay. Let's look at the profile real quick. So the profile is right in the middle here, right? You can see each week, right? So kind of balancing. So pretty much gonna make a move soon. Okay. Let's look at the weeks. Here's that range, right? I have to really see, right? That 10-week EMA is just acting as resistance. All right. So that's it for that. Let's go to the triple-headed monster. The TNX, the VIX, the dollar. This is just indecision. The 10-year yield is up today, as I said, would be not a lot. Not a lot. The bond market doesn't know what it wants right now. Okay. Let's look at the VIX. So we'll go from these levels here. So the VIX is, made a low of 15, came all the way monster day up here, whipped right back down. VIX needs to get over to 1793. I'm actually going to set create alert. I'm going to set a regular alert here. So I don't have to keep doing that here. So, okay. And now we always look at the VIX's weekly right here because there's a huge support. Now let's go to the monthlies actually. And just see the huge support here. Right here. I'm going to make a mark right there. Boom. 1473. That's a big support. Okay. Let's move on to the dollar. And the dollar also has a huge support, but the dollar is getting some love right now. Let me clear that drawing set. I don't need to see. Well, let's see here. Hold on a second. Remove. Let's get rid of these trend lines. Okay. So let's look at that dollar now. Let's go to a daily here. Dollar's getting love right now. Remember I talked about this 102.28. It's past that right now. Now does that sustain? I don't know. I don't know if that sustains. Okay, we have to keep an eye on that. But on the weeklies, we have this support here, 100.82. That is the support you have to watch. Right there, right, Bobby? You see it better in the monthlies. Right here, look at that. This month's low, and almost this month's low. The current month. So that's very key, that 182 level. All right, so I'm going to create a regular alert for that. All right. So that's very interesting right now. Where we're at right now, this is last month's high, so 103. So very, very interesting. Look at that support. Here's that 10-week EMA. If this goes up, right, that's bad for commodities and that's bad for equities. But we have to see. Very, very, very interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the volume profile, market profile. A lot of nuances helped out yesterday. All right. All right, so no surprise here. Rolling weeks profile, very balanced, perfect bell curve. That tells us that we're in balance, right? So right off the profile, we're in balance. Okay. The monthly profile, another big balance, right? Okay, so that's no surprise. We have our major week, most traded price of the weeks right here. That is 41.36. Our most traded price of the month is here, 41.55. That's where price is now. So you're just in the middle of balance, okay? You also have here 41.50, call it 41.48, is the most traded price of this year. So just look at these levels alone. Doesn't take a rocket science. You can see it on a chart. But just like, when I have these levels, it just tells me, okay, we're in balance. Get ready for chop. But there eventually will be a breakout. We don't know when. We don't know what the catalyst will be. But when the breakout happens, it's going to be pretty big. I mean, look at this range. This is the range we're playing in. Okay? We're playing in this range. We're going to break out. It's a matter of when. Okay? Now, let's look at what we're doing now compared to yesterday. So yesterday, I said right here, it came down to more than NASDAQ, but this came right down to here. Where did it come to? The overnight came right to here, right? And then we broke through that, broke through this monthly VWAP, made a low, but then we got bought up, right? So we got our lows, we got our highs. But now we're gapping up, right? We got a high up here that hit this key resistance level. We may have a low. Now what's interesting is, let's look at the inventory overnight. So we closed here. We only got this little bit of selling, and then the rest of the way has been buying. So we're pretty much 95% net long in the overnight. Okay? And where's everybody long from? They're long from here, right? They're long. The most traded price of yesterday was here. They're long from here. So everybody from here is long. And if we don't break out, this kind of would set up, if we kind of move up higher, that would set up for a nice short to get all those people in pain. Okay? So we have to see, right? But we're gapping higher. But we're gapping higher in this monster level here, which it's hard to see, right? So as always, gap rules. Okay, gap rules. Most bullish would be a gap and go. Second most bullish is a failure to fill the gap. A little less bullish, but still bullish, is if we fill the gap and go higher, right? And then finally, if we fill the gap and start going back into yesterday's range, obviously the buyers are not strong. Okay, that's how you gauge that. Okay, so since we've continued to be in balance and the NASDAQ still pushing a little higher, any weakness in that NASDAQ is going to really tank the S&P. So the tech is holding up the market. Can it keep pulling it along? I don't know. You need financials, which is a little stronger today, to help the market. That's really what needs to get pushed up. But the NASDAQ's a little weaker today. So, very interesting, right? So again, we still have this weak high up here that has not been broken. Okay, so let's talk about, since we're in balance, and I'm not sure if we break out today or not. I don't know. Okay, but the best trades probably are going to come from edge trades. Okay, and let's talk about it. So we could talk about the short. So the market could definitely gap and go. It could come down to okay, let's just say we're talking about either the market moves up, right? And you got this key resistance area, 4164. Okay, got the weak high up here. So market could push, and you got a supply zone here right now. Market could push, tap this weak high, which is right here, and let's say it comes back or stays in supply, right? Well, if we fall under this, market probably goes back down. There's this demand zone here, okay? But since it's kind of like on one side of the balance, the market probably moves lower to this level and maybe even revisits the lows. Not an easy trade with these big levels, but when you're in balance like this, these levels can get pushed through because it's just one side is short covering, one side is long liquidation. Okay, remember I said you got longs from here, from here, from here. So they all would have to liquidate. Okay. Now, if you're going long today, the only longs, okay, that I could see if you're going to play the breakout, okay, you play the breakout, is you get a gap and go. Okay, you take out this supply, even take out this weak high, and the market could just go and fill this gap, go right up to the supply zone up here. Okay, preferably I would like to see this break the supply, come back, test this resistance, to then the market can move higher, fill the gap, go into the supply. That's the gap and go. Now this is a tougher trade, and I don't really like this other trade I'm going to talk about, or the way the market has to. Let's say the market does fill the gap. Well, when it fills the gap, it's going to be in the middle of this choppy area that could cause a lot of chop. However, there's a demand zone here. It could struggle, and the market could move out of here with the gap fill and then do the same stuff. Okay, the only other long happens if you come back to this side of the range. Let's say the market comes down here. There's also a gap down here. Even touches this demand. Well, if you're looking for balance rules, then the market could start moving way back up again. Okay? Let's go with the short side. Oh, I did the short side already. Okay, so that's what I see for the ES. Let's look at the NASDAQ. Obviously, a different story here. Let's look at that weekly profile. So look at that like excess and then volume, right? Now the one thing that you have to look at is we're starting to run out of participants here. Look at the volume. See how it's tapering? So the more we go higher, it's going to keep taper, and that's when you start to get a pullback. But it doesn't mean that has to happen. That usually means this is Josh Schuler from Trader Profile calls this the slope of hope. It can go much higher than what we think, but eventually it runs out of steam. Okay? Then you got the monthly profile here. Okay, now we look at our levels. Still the key level is here. Most trader price of the week and the month are equivalent. Okay. And what's that price, right? That is 132.85, call it. That's the big price. We're holding above that. You got to be bullish. Got to be bullish. All right, let's let's look at where we are. Okay. Now, yesterday, that was the trade of the day. When, like I said, where did this come down to? 50% fib, right? This resistance area that was prior resistance became support, and the market jumped from that point. Okay. That was what I said yesterday, and that was where you wanted to get long. Okay. So, over yesterday's high, I mean low, yesterday's high, right? Overnight high up here, overnight low. We're not gapping up like the like the ES. Okay. Now you do have a very bullish imbalance profile in the overnight. So see how you got this, and it's pretty much 95% net long. Okay. So you got a lot of volume holding up the top here. Completed profile will look like that. Okay. Now that also makes it this a weak low. So the Nasdaq pulls back today. Look at the close. So you got settlement here in the overnight low and a healthy amount of volume here from yesterday. It's not the most traded, but it's close. Okay, you can see the volume here. That's a very pivotal part in the Nasdaq. Okay, so we're talking about, and it's the bottom of a demand zone. So it's 134.35. That's very pivotal. You'd want to hold the market to hold that level if the market gets weak. Okay, particularly the Nasdaq, and you see volume and weakness off the open, and we start slamming down here, I can see a flush, boom, happen. Okay, I definitely can see that. This is a weak low. Weak lows just mean there's a bunch of confluent levels, nuanced levels that are together, and then the market could slam through those. Okay, and then you'd have to see if the market finds support here at the most traded price of yesterday. If not there, you can go back to this this prior resistance that's became support. Not sure if that happens or not. Just saying, be cognizant of that level. Now, like I said, there's a bullish imbalance in this profile. That even actually helps the short here as well. So let's talk about the long. Okay, let's talk about that. So I said that could get broken or it could hold, right? So market could do this. Push up. I'm not interested in any longs up here. Push up. It could come down into this demand. Now this is the key area, right? I said it's a tipping point. So either you get pushed out of this demand and the market moves up, goes to overnight high, and could possibly go to the end of the supply zone. What's that level? 135.35. Okay. That would be the long. That's what the market could do. Okay. Now the next part, and I wouldn't be so confident, market could also move down, right? People liquidate their positions, and then your next area would be the most traded price of yesterday. If you don't get support there, but if you do, markets could start moving back up again. Okay, so that's what I'd see for any kind of confidence and any kind of long. Now, of course, the market got super weak. There's a demand here, and that would be your last line if it made above here. Okay. Let's go with the other side of the market. Now, this is that weak low. Okay. So if I'm looking at a short, I would love to see the market go higher, make this profile complete, go higher, come back down. Now, see all this volume? Those are buyers. You'd want to cut through that. That would probably fuel the move to go here. You got demand, you might get a little pop, but the market with volume weakness can crush this, and then the market could hit the most traded price of yesterday and not finally, but hit this area here, right here. That's a really important area to look at. Okay? Really, really important. But we have to see. All right, that's going to be it for me. Whoever's still with me, hopefully you got the plan, you understand it. We got some key levels we have to deal with here. Nasdaq's more clear than the ES. Okay, Nasdaq's more clear than the ES. Have patience today. Don't do any bonehead things like I did yesterday. Of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Help me out. Okay. As always, give me a like. Much appreciated. Oh, there's Miss Daza. As usual, today, let's look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq, I'm going to look at financials in the Nasdaq. You get weak Nasdaq, well, we're not ready to push up higher yet. You always pull back. And if it stays above those key levels in the Nasdaq, you'd still bullish. All right. All right. So yesterday, I'm sorry I didn't do a market update. I was going to do it, but then I got pulled away by something. So today I will do that. Remember, after 1 o'clock on a Friday, not a lot of great stuff happens. Volume usually dies. So we'll have to see what happens today. But definitely Tesla is on my radar. No problem. All right, everybody. Good luck today. Stay green and do another update. I'll still probably do a little bit of a reel on my meta long yesterday. And everybody have a great weekend, okay?